We all kind of have that daydream, right? You buy a lottery ticket, and for a couple of bucks, you get to imagine what you do with millions. And we do it because we trust the system. We trust that it's random, that the draw is fair. But what happens when the one guy hired to guarantee that fairness is the one secretly rigging the whole game from the inside? Well, this is the wild story of how an IT director hacked Lady Luck herself. Everything kicks off with this number, $16.5 million. It was a life-changing Hot Lotto jackpot hit right in Iowa back on December 29, 2010. But as the weeks started turning into months, a really strange problem started to surface. Nobody was coming forward to claim it. The one-year deadline was ticking down, getting closer and closer. You had newspapers running these big headlines like, "Where is the mystery winner?" I mean, how could somebody just forget they were holding a ticket worth a fortune? Turns out, they hadn't forgotten at all. They were just hiding. And that was the question that had Iowa lottery officials completely stumped. It's what kicked off one of the biggest lottery fraud investigations in history. The winner, whoever they were, was desperate to get their hands on the cash, but they were even more desperate to stay a complete ghost. And as investigators would find out, there was a very good reason for that. So, with the deadline just days away, a claim is finally made. But instead of solving the mystery, it just made things way weirder. The claim didn't come from a person. It came from this shadowy, offshore trust that was demanding something the Iowa lottery just couldn't do. So right away, you've got this huge problem, a legal standoff. On one side, you have Iowa state law, which is crystal clear. To keep everything transparent, the winner's name has to be made public, period. But on the other side, you've got this lawyer representing a trust based in Belize called Hexam Investments, and he is insisting on total, complete anonymity. I mean, talk about a massive red flag. Why all this secrecy? With lottery officials refusing to break the law, the final deadline arrived, and on the very last day, in a move that proves just how vital that secrecy was, the attorney did something completely unthinkable. He withdrew the claim. He walked away, leaving $16.5 million just sitting on the table. Someone literally chose to forfeit a fortune rather than show their face. For the investigators, that was it. That was the proof. This wasn't some lucky winner. This was a criminal. Okay, so the prize money is now officially unclaimed, and the investigation shifts gears. Their only real shot was to go all the way back to the beginning, to the exact moment that winning ticket was purchased. They had to find the person who bought it. And this is what they found. Super grainy security footage from a convenience store in Des Moines. It was recorded just a couple of hours before the draw. You can see a man, his face totally hidden by a hoodie and a cap, and he carefully buys one single Hot Lotto ticket with numbers he picked himself. And then, probably to look casual, he even buys a hot dog. It really looked like a dead end. So, with nowhere else to go, the investigators just decided to release the footage to the public, hoping for a miracle. And, believe it or not, they got one. A tip came in from the last place on earth you'd expect, from inside the Multi-State Lottery Association itself. A couple of employees were watching the video, they heard the guy's muffled voice, and they recognized his posture, the way he walked. And you can just imagine that question hanging in the air, because it sounded too absurd to even say out loud. Eddie? Quiet? Kinda nerdy Eddie from the IT department? The guy they all knew and trusted? It seemed impossible. But the more they watched that footage, the more certain they became. And that was the real heart of the crime. The man in the hoodie wasn't some random guy off the street. It was Eddie Tipton, the head of IT security, the very person whose job it was to protect the lottery's random number generators from being tampered with. The fox wasn't just guarding the hen house, he had designed the hen house and held all the keys. So the big question is, how on earth did he do it? How do you hack a system that's supposed to be tamper-proof, locked down, and totally random? Well, Tipton used his inside access and a really sneaky kind of software. Tipton was apparently obsessed with something called a rootkit. And the easiest way to think about a rootkit is to imagine it's a digital ghost. It's a tiny bit of code that can sneak into a computer, do a very specific job without anyone ever seeing it, and then poof, it vanishes, completely erasing any evidence it was ever there. It was the perfect tool for the perfect crime. Tipton's plan was actually pretty simple, which is what made it so genius. Back on November 20th, 2010, he walked into the high-security glass room where the draw computer was kept. He said he was just doing routine maintenance. He even messed with the security cameras so they would only record for 1 second every minute. giving him these little blind spots. And in those moments, he plugged in a USB stick and installed his custom-made Rootkit. Then the code just sat there, totally dormant, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, before deleting itself forever. And this hack was incredibly specific. It was built around Tipton's insider knowledge of the whole lottery schedule. See, the Rootkit wasn't always active. It would only wake up if 3 very precise conditions were met at the exact same time. The date had to be one of 3 specific days of the year. That day also had to be a Wednesday or a Saturday, and the drawing had to take place after 8 p.m. Only when all 3 of those things lined up would the program take over the random number generator and force it to spit out a set of winning numbers that Tipton already knew ahead of time. So after Tipton's arrest, the investigators started digging, and they made this absolutely stunning discovery. That Iowa jackpot, it wasn't a one-time thing. It turns out those magic dates he programmed into the Rootkit were like a trail of breadcrumbs leading back for years, and they uncovered a massive multi-state conspiracy. They started cross-referencing past lottery wins with Tipton's 3 magic dates, and this crazy pattern started to emerge. A $500,000 win in Colorado back in 2005, oh, look at that, claimed by Eddie's own brother. A big win in Wisconsin in 2007, claimed by a business partner. Oklahoma 2011, another friend. This wasn't a single heist, it was a criminal enterprise that had been going on for years, all run by Eddie Tipton. With the whole conspiracy unraveling, Tipton was finally put on trial. The evidence against him was circumstantial, sure, but it was really compelling. And the defense was, let's just say it was memorable. Tipton's own brother, Tommy, got up on the witness stand and delivered what the media immediately called the hot dog defense. His big argument was that the man in that blurry video couldn't possibly be Eddie because Eddie doesn't like hot dogs. As you can probably guess, that defense did not go over well with the jury. The final nail in the coffin came when forensic experts up in Wisconsin found a lottery machine where, for some reason, Tipton's Rootkit had failed to self-delete. It was still there. They had the code, they had the digital blueprint of his entire scheme. Faced with that undeniable proof, Tipton knew it was over. He confessed to everything, admitting he'd rigged lottery drawings in 5 different states. In 2017, Eddie Tipton was sentenced to a maximum of 25 years in prison. His conviction wasn't just for fraud, it was for carrying out this decade-long scheme that completely betrayed the public's trust. All told, Tipton and his network of friends and family had tampered with jackpots worth nearly $24 million. It stands as one of the largest and, frankly, most clever lottery scams ever uncovered. And what makes this story so fascinating and so infuriating is that this massive crime was committed by the one person whose entire job was to prevent it. It's such a chilling example of the ultimate insider threat. He didn't have to break into the system, he was the one holding the keys. The case of Eddie Tipton is just this stark reminder that sometimes the biggest threat to any secure system doesn't come from the outside, but from within. And it leaves us with this really critical question to think about. What happens when the very people we trust to make sure the game is fair are the ones secretly rewriting all the rules?